and the Jackson, Michigan Historical Society, Maurice Imhoff. Maurice, welcome back to the show.
Well, thank you for having me on.
Jackson County, Michigan Historical Society.
Yep. We wanted to have the difference because of Jackson, Mississippi, I want to say. Down south, there's another Jackson. They kept getting confused when we were looking it up, so we wanted to make sure we added the Michigan when we started it.
Well, good. This week is a busy one for you. We've got a couple of things happening, but the big one is this weekend's Civil War muster.
Absolutely. It's looked like it's going to gear up to be a big one this year, so we're really excited to take part.
Yeah, I don't know if you heard, the weather forecast is going to be perfect.
Absolutely. 70 degrees it looks like, around 70s, low 70s, which is nice. I know last year it got to be toasty. I even took a break in my car just to cool off, and that's something our reenactors don't get to enjoy, being in the wool. So it's going to be a lot better for them this year. Yeah,
the outfits reenactors wear, super heavy and super hot.
Absolutely. Wearing them myself, I know what it feels like. You know, you're wearing the wool and then the cotton underneath, the wool pants, the wool hat. It kicks up. I mean, you're talking, you know, with the humidity especially, and even trying to sleep in it, sometimes it can get a little warm. But, you know, it also breathes well too, so the Army, you know, planned for that during the summer and the winter. So, but we're used to it.
Some found some shade to cool off, but really wool and the heavy uniforms appropriate for this weekend, because I believe one of the battles that you're reenacting actually occurred during a winter month.
Yes, I believe both of these ones occurred in December of 1864, if I'm correct, in the South Carolina region. So it wasn't as cold, you know, as Michigan in December by any means, but it was definitely warm but cool. You know, I don't know the exact temperature at the time, but you know, as you know, if you go to South Carolina today, it's pretty medium, not cold, not hot during December.
We commemorate significant anniversary with this year's muster. It's the 250th anniversary of the U.S. Army.
Yes, 1775, our Army was founded in the United States, and this year we're going to, you know, celebrate that and commemorate that history of our armed forces here in Jackson. You know, it grew to be an incredible force, and the force, as I say, that helped defeat slavery in America. You know, that's something we, as a community that was largely abolitionist in the 1860s, right? That's appropriately, very appropriate to celebrate that here in Jackson.
Well, and during the muster, though, we didn't have the Army. The U.S. Army was not established during the Civil War, right?
It was, yep.
It was?
Yep, it was the U.S. Army. Yep, it was founded in 1776, you know, George Washington's Army.
Okay, 1776,
yep.
Right, okay.
Yep, and then that would be the United States Armed Forces, who then went to fight the Confederate forces of America.
Yes, that was the second Army, the second U.S. Army that was just served the South.
Yep.
So what's significant about these two battles, and why were they chosen?
Yeah, what's significant about this year's battles was we want to once again highlight Michigan's story, right? And the focus this year has been the United States colored troops. So, you know, we've honored different things, different years. This year is the U.S. colored troops, and these battles were ones that Michigan's colored troops fought in the South Carolina region. They were put in South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. And this is one of the regions where they were at, where it was mainly a raid towards the end of the war. At this point of the time, where they wanted to put the Confederates out, they wanted them to give up, so they were going to these different farms, trying to make them give up in a way. And so they, of course, experienced a backlash from the Confederates, including some of the South Carolina cadets, young college-age students, who put up a very good fight against the Union Army, not just the black soldiers, but the white soldiers who were also fighting in the ranks as well. So unfortunately, they are both Confederate victories. I won't give it away. If you look it up, you can read it right away.
Spoiler alert.
Yep, but they are Confederate victories that they had, but definitely important still to Michigan's story and the conflicts that they took part in.
And you've done a lot of research on the colored troops, in particular Michigan's colored troops, and these men that fought in the war for the North had, in some cases, been in slavery, escaped, and then returned to the South to fight for freedom for others.
Exactly, which makes even that South Carolina region more unique, right? You're talking people who were formerly enslaved in that area, going all the way to Michigan, and then going back to fight the same people who enslaved them. You know, it's quite a unique story. to be able to tell. And there's one gentleman I read about in my book who was he worked for the Confederate Army. He was a cook, left the Army, escaped, and then went back to fight that Army. So, quite the unique stories there.
And in the case of the Civil War, those people of color, called the colored troops, black African Americans, they were more accepted in the Army fighting against white men than they were in either World War I or World War II.
Absolutely. Yep. So the United States colored troops, they were segregated in the United States Army all the way, through World War II, I want to say, when Truman desegregated the Army. But they were welcomed to the United States Armed Forces after Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation. But it wasn't always equal. But they're treated well for the most part, not always. But that's something we want to be able to showcase here at the Jackson Muster is what was it like for the black soldiers? What was some of the equipment that they were issued? How, what were the tactics that they used on the battlefield? So we want to be able to highlight this year. What was their role as we've highlighted other roles in the past years.
And I think as a young teenager, you were a reenactor, and that, I believe, is where you got the bug.
That's at Jackson. 2014 was my first start, and I think, as I mentioned, past years, my first year was all about the battles, and then going into my second and third year, I started to gain a passion for the history, and that's something I encourage everyone to come and do. A lot of our local public, they come for the battles, they watch it, go home. I encourage everyone, stick around, go through the camps, go to the backfield, see the cavalry camps, talk, ask questions. I'm not saying you have to join like I did, but at least get involved and ask questions. They're ready to answer them for you.
Yeah, it's not just the battles. There's tons of stuff going on throughout both days, like the displays and exhibits. What else should people make a point of seeing?
So there is I'm blanking on what it's called, a fashion show, an 1860s fashion show taking place, which is quite unique. So they'll go over the different attires, mainly focusing on women. There are different attires, but I know they have some men's attire as well they'll be showcasing. It's mainly focusing on the civilians. There's tons of military you can walk on all day long, but this fashion show focus is mainly on the civilians. There's also a baseball game taking place on Sunday at 3 p.m., an 1860s baseball game. So some different rules and the way they did baseball in the 1860s, so they'll be showcasing that. Another thing is the drills that I encourage people to come to. If you're an early riser and you want to come out and see some of the drills, it's practice for our guys, but also a demonstration for the public. Safety is number one and certainly important, and that's a chance where they get to go over those safety rules, do the different maneuvers. This time it'll be nice because it's 70 degrees, so when it's 90 degrees and humid and you're doing the drill, having been one of those people, it is not fun. You're ready to go, but that was the same experience, right, those original soldiers had. So it's cool for the public to see it, but also cool for our reenactors, and we're expecting about 550 reenactors from across the region.
Oh, wow. And there's a ball.
There is a ball. That's one of the big highlights for the public is the ball on Saturday night. This year we're taking it back to the driving range. We had it at the Falls a couple of years, so now we're going to go back to the driving range. It offers a bit more room for dancing, but I know one thing people had asked about was seating, and this year we're making sure we bring some seats there to the driving range.
Should people bring a lawn chair to this?
They should, but like I said, we're going to have some chairs there this year that people can use, free of charge. But if you have an extra lawn chair, a bit more comfortable than the plastic folding chairs, of course, right? And that runs from about 7 to 9 o'clock, and people are welcome to watch, but you're also welcome to participate. They'll go over all of the dances. If you want to dress up, you're more than welcome to dress up, and it's a really nice evening. And
no jitterbug, because that was not invented yet. Now, in conjunction with the muster, you've got an exhibit at the Ella.
Yes. So we've partnered with the Ella Sharp Museum to loan an exhibit out from the Detroit Historical Society, which focuses all on Michigan and the Civil War. Michigan sent 90,000 boys to go fight in the war. 15,000 of those boys never made it back home, and this is an exhibit where their story is told. It's a really nice exhibit that the Detroit Historical Society put together. On top of that, the Jackson County, Michigan Historical Society has added in addition to that, which focuses on Jackson and the Civil War, which is kind of unique. So it's different panels going over different aspects of Jackson during the war. So you can learn about Michigan as a whole, but you also can learn about Jackson's tie.
Yeah, so there was no fighting in Michigan, but Jackson has quite a bit of Civil War history,
Absolutely.
including this very building we're in right now.
Yep. So as we know, the governor during the war heard about the conflict, of course, very, very quickly, and then we had the Jackson Grays who took up arms to then go offer their services to the governor, and they joined the 1st Michigan Regiment of Infantry, which was then went and deployed to Fort Wayne in Detroit, and then of course to various battles. So quite a unique story. We touched a little bit on that in the exhibit.
Yeah, and they met in this very building on the 3rd floor the day before they shipped out to Fort Wayne, right?
Fort Wayne, yep.
One of the things that Jackson County, Michigan Historical Society does is signify important areas and events in our community with historical markers.
Yeah.
Most recently, last week.
Yep, so we unveiled a new marker, wall-mounted one, at the Snyder Schoolhouse, built in 1840, believe it or not, quite a long time ago. And that is now on the wall in Spring Arbor Township. So just behind, I want to say their city hall there that they have, or village hall, I'm not sure what they label it as.
Yeah,
Township, yep.
Township offices.
So it's right there in the park, and it's a beautiful marker. And I would give big credit to Linda Haas, for her work, as well as Judy Ganton. They did some incredible work to honor this. And not only did they, unveil the marker, but they also were able to track down some original people who went to school there. That school was open, and one of the guys who spoke there went to school there in the 1940s, I want to say. So it was open for quite some time.
Did Lloyd Ganton go to school there?
I don't believe Lloyd went, but he definitely was there and present, in support of the project. But to my knowledge, he did not go to school there.
How many markers do you have throughout Jackson County now?
Ooh, I want to say we have roughly 20.
Really?
That's a rough guess. Linda
Wow.
is our chief expert on the markers. But I want to say roughly 20 markers, and it's neat, especially in Spring Arbor, to branch out. We're not just Jackson, right? We're the entire county, so we're trying to highlight those stories from all across the county, mainly untold stories, right? And I think the Snyder Schoolhouse, while it's there, it's present, you can see it, you don't know the history of it just walking by, right? And that's our goal is, don't just see something, what is the actual history behind these structures and places?
All right. And the last question I have about the Civil War muster this weekend, is there going to be root beer?
There will 100% be root beer. They are coming all the way up from Kansas City, Missouri, I want to say? I don't remember. Kansas City, there's 2 Kansas Cities, I believe, in America. Mm-hmm. I don't remember which one they're from, but they're coming up from out of state, and they are really excited to be here.
Great. We'll see you this weekend at the Cascades. Maurice, thanks to you and all the volunteers and reenactors putting this event on again this year. How many years now?
38.
Wow.
Quite
Awesome.
a while.
Yes, I think Jim Guerrero, who watches JTV, was one of the founders of the event.
Yes.
Wow, 38 years ago, Jim. Nice job. Thanks, Maurice.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Maurice Imhoff, president of the Jackson Civil War Muster and the Jackson County, Michigan Historical Society.